What's good, y'all? I already know where y'all at. It's your boy Star Jones, and it's a new episode of Star Views. It's about to start right now. So please, I hope you got your hookah ready, and I hope you got your cups full of whatever ready, because I got a lot to talk about, alright? Know what's going on. Star Jones, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already done so. Please and thanks, you heard? What's good, folks? It's your man Star Jones, and we back. Episode number 24, something like that. It's been a long 2021, and we're fastly approaching the end of this year. So, on tonight's episode, we're going to actually talk about another franchise, a cinematic franchise, franchise that has its own cinematic universe. And this cinematic universe dates back to 1984, and that is Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters Afterlife, which is the movie we're going to actually be talking about specifically. But the franchise is the Ghostbusters franchise. As I mentioned, the first film came out in 1984, which was well before my actual birth year. And then we have Ghostbusters 2 that came out in 1989. Afterlife came out in 2021, so if you guys are mathematicians, you guys know that this was sequel, third installment, is actually 30 years later. 30 years succeeding its second film. So that's a little history on this film. When we get back, we're going to actually talk about what transpired in the film, what took place, and then you already know, as always, when we close out the show, we're going to tell you exactly what I'm rating the film and whether or not you guys should see it, pros and cons, and things of that nature. So I'll be back in a second. Let me go get a drink. I hope you got your drinks and your hookah ready. And yeah, see you in 2 seconds. Alright, folks, you already know what time it is. Let's get straight into it. So Ghostbusters Afterlife, as I mentioned just now, takes place 31 years later because the film takes place in June. I'm just going off my birthday. They're saying that it's June 2021. That's a few months back, and I quite didn't get old. Well, I'm not a year older yet in this time block. So I'm gonna say 31 years from the events of the second film. And this movie is a lot different from its preceding films. One of the major differences is the fact that it's in a small town in Oklahoma. The first two films actually took place in the Big Apple, New York City. So the setting is a dramatic difference. It went from being, I guess, fast-paced, a lot of people, to a small town, slow-paced. A little bit more intimate, interacting. The stars of the film actually interacting with, the locals, and they themselves, I think, are from the big city. But before I get into that, let me talk about the actual characters. So another major difference is the characters. It's not Egon, it's not Vinkman, Stans, and Winston. Those are the original 4 members of Ghostbusters. This movie is actually centered around Egon's estranged daughter and grandchildren. Y'all already know I did my homework. I watched the old films this past week, and Egon was very awkward. How the rest of them, I guess, showed some type of interest in a love life or being with someone. Egon kind of pretty much was just adamant about science and just really focused on, figuring out science to the best of his abilities. He was a genius. He was very smart. So again, we never really got to see him interact with women or men, for that matter. So learning that Egon had an actual daughter and then grandchildren was, left lane. We wasn't expecting that. So again, we meet his grandchildren. His grandchildren goes by the name of Phoebe and Trevor. Trevor being the oldest, and his daughter's name is Kelly. Yeah. So pretty much they move. He dies. Egon dies early in the film. This is not a spoiler because this is what begins the movie. So he passes away. I won't violate and tell you how he passed away, but he passes away and he leaves his daughter and her grandchildren his house. And the timing couldn't be any better because the daughter was getting evicted with the children, and they needed a place to stay anyway. So here they are in small town Oklahoma, and having to transition from a fast-paced city life to a small town, slow-paced life. Pretty much the movie, throughout the course of the movie, you have the grandchildren, Phoebe and Trevor trying pretty much to adjust. And then in the midst of them trying to adjust to this new slower lifestyle, they meet friends, they get to know them, and as well as Phoebe discovering her lineage and realizing who exactly her grandfather is, who is one of the original members of the Ghostbusters. Again, the mother never mentioned it because, again, she had her own issues with Egon, her father. So she just was like, he's an asshole, so I'm not even bringing him up. He's not relevant. So, and then as they discover all these old hidden inheritance, I guess, so to speak, you know, they get to go on a wild goose chase, so to speak, chasing ghosts. So that's pretty much the movie. I don't want to give you guys too much. The movie is was directly influenced by the events of the first film. It wasn't too much reference to the second film, but a lot of references from the first film. So, in all honesty, if you watch the first film, you don't really have to watch the second film to know what's going on in this third installment. So yeah. So we've reached that part of the show where I'm gonna tell you guys what to expect. I mean, not what to expect, what I'm gonna grade it, the pros and cons, and whether or not you should see it. You know? So I'll be back in a second. Y'all enjoy y'all hookah, how y'all enjoy it. So, boom. See you in a minute. So we back. We got that part of the show, my favorite part of the show. I think this is everybody's favorite part of the show because this is what I get asked about the most. Star, what do you grade it? But before I get into what I graded, I'm gonna actually tell you guys the pros and cons. Straight up the back, pros of the film. It was good to see some cast members from the past. It was good to see the continuity there. I won't spoil it for you guys, but it was good to see some familiar faces and not a bunch of new faces in this story. So that was cool. That was good to see. It was kind of fun, you know, seeing a modern take on the Ghostbusters again, because the Ghostbusters movies are ancient. They're like 30 years old at this point. So seeing a new modern spin on it, you know, seeing these Generation Z kids, you know, busting ghosts, I guess, was cool. It was interesting to see. As far as it's not too many pros of the film. I think the movie itself was very regular, especially because they kind of just took it straight from, you know, this is just 30 years removed, 30 years added on from the events of the first film. It wasn't too much, nothing complex about the story. It was the same main villain, the same henchman. So it wasn't nothing crazy. I think that's one of my biggest cons of the film. And like I mentioned with Coming to America, I think too much time has passed. You know, for me personally, I don't like when movies have such a huge time gap, because you kind of just lose interest. And again, after watching those first two movies and then watching this one, it was kind of just like, okay. And then I'm not gonna lie, after watching the first two movies, I don't know what people loved about the Ghostbuster movies back in the day. I guess because it was different. But I feel like personally those movies didn't age well. Because watching them, I just kind of was like, these movies aren't ill. Like. And then the second movie wasn't any better. I think it got worse. I wouldn't have graded those movies high if I was around back then, old enough to critique movies for a fact. And that's kind of how I feel about the third one. I think Afterlife, it didn't get any better. I think it was just as regular as the other two. Yeah, I just think they didn't do anything spectacular. There was no wow factor, and because the story was so basic, I think it was just a basic story. You know, the fact that they took everything from the first film and just put it in the year 2021 kind of made it boring for me. In all honesty, the last maybe 20 minutes of the film was the best parts of the film. I know throughout the film I was kind of dozing off, to be honest. And it wasn't from fatigue or being tired. It was just because it wasn't really entertaining. I don't even think kids would enjoy it. And if I'm being completely honest, like as I always am, I don't even think kids would enjoy it. But I think it did what it was supposed to do. I think it gave what it was supposed to give. I don't think a lot of people, even maybe Ghostbusters fans, probably weren't expecting too much from this. So with all that said, I'm gonna give this movie 5 stars. I don't think it was terrible, but I also don't think it's worth the bread. If you watch this in your crib, I think it'll suffice. You won't be so mad at yourself. The movie total runtime is 2 hours. This didn't have to be 2 hours. They could have definitely condensed this to an hour and 20 minutes. Yeah, and it would have been fine. We didn't need a whole 2 hours and 3 minutes. Um, yeah, 5 stars. Don't waste your bread. Wait for it to come out on TV. It's a cool little chill in the crib flick, waste time flick. Put it on while you fall asleep flick, but not worth $20 at the box office. $40 if you're on a date. So yeah, 5 stars. I will see you guys very soon. Um, Resident Evil. Welcome to Raccoon City drops this week, and it's hitting theaters exclusively on the 24th, but they may drop it on the 20th. They are dropping it on the 22nd, which is tomorrow, in select theaters. So I may try to find a way to finesse that because the holiday weekend is coming up, and I know I'm gonna be extremely busy. So I want to get that episode out ASAP so you guys can actually sit down and enjoy it. So definitely look out for that ASAP, maybe within the next day or two. So yeah, welcome to Raccoon City. Resident Evil is coming up next. Thank you for your time. I'm Star Jones, Star Views. Y'all have a good night. Oh, y'all still here? Appreciate y'all for sticking around, man. But I don't got no more hookah. But what I do have is more content on my YouTube channel. So please, if you haven't done so already, hit that red button and subscribe. Hit the bell so you get notified as soon as I post anything. All right? And if you haven't already followed me on social media, here's my information. Make sure y'all follow up. Appreciate it. Y'all still here, man. That's valid. Have a good one.